need to get a co-host that's the same height as you, because otherwise you're like crouching.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of
The Sound of That.
With me, George Pelham.
And me, Lindsey Isla.
Got it right this time.
Thanks. I know my name for today.
Let's talk about Priz. What's there to say about Priz?
I'm really excited about this chat. I knew he'd be a good one. I'm so glad when we asked him to do it that he said yes.
He's a really good friend of ours, and he is just the loveliest guy. So talented, so intelligent, and just offers a real insight into his music and life in general. Yeah,
so here it is. Please, before you start watching them, before we let you start watching, if you could like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
That would be fabulous. And leave a comment as well. Let us know what you thought of
this interview. Oh, we also have to mention that the quality is, again, not incredible at points, but please be forgiving because
it's lockdown.
It's lockdown.
See you in a bit.
My name is Priz, and I'm a man who sings songs. I'm a human man who loves to sing.
It's good to keep things simple.
Based in London town. Good old Blighty.
Are you doing much singing at the moment during lockdown?
So there's an amazing venue called The Shower, which I've been selling out every night.
I hear a lot of industry go down there, you know.
Oh mate, there's this guy called The Drain. He loves me. This crowd of five, you know, my mum, my stepdad, my sister, and the cat. They come every night. They love it. Yeah, it's great. Having a wild set out. It's a good old residency you got going.
Daily residency. We hope.
Yeah.
Is the are you in a attached house? Because I remember I had a neighbour once. It was in a flat and they were above me, and every single morning the girl would be giving it everything she had, but she didn't have much to give, unfortunately.
Oh my god. Oh no! But you could hear it. You could hear everything that was going on.
Yeah, she was singing her heart out.
There is the odd time I catch myself in my room, and it's a semi-detached, and the neighbours are on my side of the wall, and they're a family whose kids have just moved back in for lockdown, and the room next to me is usually empty, but she's in it. So every time I have I'm blasting my Celine Dion out at night or having a little sing-song, I do hear a cheeky chuckle from her. She's like, doing it again. He's got into the bedroom and he's still singing. It's quite nice having the space. We're just outside of London on the border of Epping Forest. So there's a bit of space. I mean, if it gets a bit boring at home, I go to the forest and just have a little cheeky sing-song in the park.
Oh, lovely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind singing when you're walking down the street? Because when George does it, I love it. I'm like, sing more. Like, I thought going out with a singer, he would just sing all the time, and I just really enjoy it. But he never sings very much.
Well, because I feel like there's people always around. Like, do you feel that as well? Do you feel self-conscious about people hearing you, or?
I never used to until. I used to do it a lot at school. I used to walk from school to the bus stop and constantly have a song in my head, and I'd just be singing out by myself. And I used to get comments from people being like, "Oh yeah, we drove past you. We thought you were talking to yourself, like you were quite crazy." And I was like, "Okay, don't want people to think that." So I decided to stop singing to myself. But I've got my AirPods in, just having a nice stroll through the park, and I'm course I'm going to have a little cheeky hum. It'd be rude not to. As long as you're reasonable and conscious of like the people around you, I think you're not hurting anyone, just spreading a bit of love. Sing a bit of a song, yeah.
Do you feel like you're the kind of guy who maybe wants to sing and wants the onlookers, you know, wants people to hear you, or would you prefer to just be alone in your singing?
Good question. I mean, the really annoying thing is that I think I do my best singing when I'm by myself, because you really just let rip, and you're not self-conscious, and you don't care if you fuck up or make mistakes. And I love those moments because it's also like it's your practice, and you get really familiar with your voice and how it works and what you're doing. And I always wish that I could sing as well as I do when I'm by myself in front of a crowd. That's the dream. That is the dream, isn't it? So yeah, step by step. I mean, I'm sure with his residency at the Shower, a lot of good practice is being happening.
I used to sing a lot when I was at home at my parents' house, and then I stopped doing it now because I'm living with other people, and I used to find it like when I was feeling sadder as well, I'd stop singing, which I think is a shame. Really, it's kind of like a very it can be therapeutic, I find. Do you think that?
Oh, absolutely. And you sing way better when you're relaxed and in a joyful state. Like if there's like a massive panic happening and you know people are having a bit of Barney at home, you're like and you're just like tense, and it's hard to sing. And I do find I tend to enjoy it more when I'm feeling free. And during lockdown, it's not the same. I mean, my voice feels restricted a bit as well at the same time, definitely. So you've got to be a bit creative, I think, and just like, you know, pretend that you're in a recording studio when you're in your bedroom, or if you're in a rehearsal studio but you're in the bathroom, and use a bit of imagination.
Yeah.
I really want to ask you this because I personally, I always kind of think, I wish my voice had whatever, more gravel, or I wish it was lower, or I wish it was higher, and I'm never quite happy with how it is. Do you feel like with your voice you're happy, or do you ever listen back to it and think, you know what, I just wish it was a little bit more like something else?
I think your voice, this is the cheesiest line I've ever said, your voice is like a fine wine. It ages, it should age well and have more character. And I think, you know, experiences, you know, you go through in life, and the more, you know, heartbreak you kind of go through, or kind of if you experience emotions that you've not, you know, experienced before, or kind of sat in, it's communicated through the voice. And for me, it's like, it's really interesting going back to my first recordings and literally hearing how young I sound. Like, so like not just inexperienced, but also kind of, it's that tone. It kind of, I miss that kind of sense of depth and richness that comes like later in age, and that's what I constantly want to work on. Is kind of, I love voices where you can lose that voice, and the story is told in that voice. Like, you know, you've got like your Etta James and Amy Winehouse's, but also your Nat King Cole's, and like and like Aretha Franklin's, like voices which just tell a story. And that's where I want to get to. It's always a case of tone and depth, like richness and depth and body. So that's what, and it's hard to work on those things. But I think hopefully the older you get, the better it sounds.
Would you say then that you're excited about getting older, or it's something that doesn't bother you? Because I feel that it's something that I'm very conscious of, especially turning 30. Like, it's always on my mind. I think there is a lot of pressure on females as well to kind of worry about getting older and like constantly doing things to look younger. And
yeah, absolutely. I think I have the added societal pressure, which sucks, by the way. Like, I really sympathise like with you guys. I think we're living in quite an interesting age where we're allowed to kind of mature later than previous generations. We've given more scope for like freedom. There's less pressures and less milestones and deadlines on which, you know, you should be married by a certain time or have like your whole life sorted by a certain age. And social media helps that. Like, it's given a playground for people to express themselves like way more than people have, you know, before. And I think I used to stress about aging all the time and think you've got a short window in which to accomplish, you know, certain things or kind of, you know, make it in you know, a competitive industry like the music industry. But then the more and more I think about it, it's like that pressure you feel isn't conducive to making good music. And that's all that really matters, is that you create things that you're proud of and that you put your soul into. And if any of those pressures are stopping you doing that, then I'm like, fuck that. Don't, just try not to let it get to you. Mm-hmm. And we're all probably going to live till the age of like 100, hopefully, with like modern medicine and good diet. So we've got time. Yeah. We've got time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's being around people that are doing things at a different pace, I think really helps. Because you can see on social media, or especially if we move to London, there's lots of people that you have to go slower because buying a house or whatever isn't an option when you're young. So
yeah, exactly. And I think like social media is an amazing tool because it's giving you a platform, but it can also be like the worst comparison exercise in history when you're like, the way the brain works is so crazy. It's like you often pick up the phone when you're like, you know, when you're thinking like how like crap your day's been, or like how you had like an annoying kind of conversation with somebody, you just want to forget about it, so you want some like some escapism, and you're like, this is really not making me feel better. This is like, yeah, like the worst thing I could do right now.
How do you feel as a kind of musician with social media? Do you feel like it has helped you maybe get your music out, or do you feel like it's a pain, or what's your relationship with it in terms of your music?
You know what, I have recently changed the way I've started to look at kind of social media. I used to be very kind of controlled with what I put out there and very calculating, and I wanted it to come a certain way. And it all just felt quite restrictive and quite tight. And I think there's some brilliant tools out there, and you can use it so much to your advantage. So I've been using IGTV recently while I've been at home to kind of do covers, which I've never done before. And it's had so much more of a response than I even imagined. Not only in terms of like views, but in terms of engagement. And while it's quite a hard time for me to get into the studio and make music, especially during lockdown when I've just been at home, it's been really helpful to have an outlet like that and to remind people that I'm alive, I'm making music, I'm not going anywhere. And it's like another thing, you know, to almost kind of keep the people that are supporting you kind of happy and kind of, you know, with kind of content that you're creating. So yeah, I've been a bit more loose and free with it recently, which has been quite fun.
We love your covers, by the way. We were just listening to a few of them.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we've done our research.
Oh mate, well we were thinking of questions to ask you, and we were doing all the research, listening to all the songs, and I thought, I already know these songs back to front. There's nothing I don't know.
I know. It's like, it's really lucky. I think that's what I've been really missing the most, is hanging out with other musicians and like sharing experiences. Because for me, a lot of kind of my favorite memories are kind of gigging with your other favorite artists. Yeah. And getting to know them. And that's a harder thing to do when there's a pandemic, a national pandemic happening. But I feel quite lucky with GP. We've done quite a few things together, and quite a few shared experiences.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Shared the build.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you feel like the gigs? Because I know you were mentioning to me before you were more focused on more on the records than the gigs. But now that this has happened, do you think, like lockdown and everything, do you think it's made you think, actually, you know what, I want to play some more shows because I want to connect with people?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think in these times we're isolated, like you can't replicate the live experience, man, in a million years. And people will always find a way to enjoy music and see it happening in front of their eyes, like it's magic. And I really don't see that ever really going away. Like it might be harder to kind of play venues and gigs that might not happen for a while, but I've got no doubt that that's like a necessary kind of part of life, and it's going to happen. Just it's a case of when, not if. So I'm holding hope for more shows in the future. Yeah.
Oh,
definitely.
100%. We'll be there. Speaking of shows, we'd like to have a little show from you now.
Oh my god! Here we go.
So your first, so either your first/worst or your favorite song that you've written, and whatever you want to do. What do you fancy singing first?
So I think we should start bad, so that's out of the way, like bad news first, and then end on a high note with like good vibes.
That sounds good.
Okay. I've literally not played this song to anybody ever.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
This is a song I wrote when I was 15. And it's the worst. It's probably like, it's probably like, you can't even call it a song. It's like the worst thing ever made. It's called Taxi Cab.
Say again, it's called what? Taxi Cab?
It's called Taxi Cab.
Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
Quite a confusing title. I mean, I just thought in case it didn't have one, just say it twice in different dialects.
That's how the Americans say it, right? Taxi Cab? You're just
Taxi
appealing
cab.
to a broad market. I understand. He's business-minded.
I was thinking about branding opportunities, partnering with an app. I was like, hey, Taxi Cab.
It's catchy.
It's like a Welsh road
okay. Here, okay, I hope I remember the lyrics, but I'll do a verse and a chorus. Let's see how this goes. Okay. You ready? Hail my taxi cab, we're moving too slow. Hail my taxi cab, we ain't gonna make it. Taxi cab, driver take me fast. Hail my taxi cab, we ain't gonna make it. Woke up with a broken heart, dreamt of a brand new start. Can't keep crying in the dark. I need to go now. We've gone on too long. I don't wanna fight no more. Please take me past that door. I need to go now. Taxi cab, driver take us. Hail my taxi cab. We ain't gonna make it. Taxi cab, driver take me fast. Hail my taxi cab. We ain't gonna make it.
Woo!
I was so into that.
It was fun.
I think I used to think I was in a K-pop band or something. It was like the most ridiculous thing.
I think the best thing for us as well is there was a slight delay in the first verse, which just added to it. It really brought something.
Oh, great.
No, I don't even think it's that bad.
It was. I could. If Justin Bieber had released that back in the day, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing.
I actually think this was before Justin Bieber existed. So maybe I was like on the trend. You never know.
It's a catchy hook. You got to say.
Hail my taxi cab.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm hoping we've rekindled your love for that song and you're going to release it.
I think I'm probably about 15 years too old to release a song like that. But,
imagine the video though.
Oh, the video's classic.
Speaks for itself.
We could shoot it in various countries, like New York with the yellow taxi cab, London with the black taxi.
Yeah.
It could be a transatlantic romance. It'd be great.
Oh, I see it.
And at the end, they all pull up to the car park, and then you're stood on top of it, and all the lights are on, and it's in the dark.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, strong vision.
Yeah.
You got a video director right here.
Yes, queen of music videos. Yes.
We'll talk numbers later.
Yeah. Hit me up on my DMs, babe.
So, segueing from Taxi Cab to how you write your songs. So I'm not sure how you wrote Taxi Cab, but do you think what was I gonna say? Do you think so? How do you write the song? Like, do you write with the phrase first? Do you start with the phrase like taxi cab or something else, or do you start with a melody or lyrics, or how does it work for you?
Good question. Gosh, the magic is when you get the music at the same time. When you have and one of my most recent songs I've written was the first time in a long time that happened, and it's immediate and you love it, but you can't bottle that. You don't know when that's going to happen. So yeah, there's loads of different things I use. Sometimes I go in with an emotional feeling. I've got a story I want to talk about something I've been going through, or there's a title in my head. I find that quite easy to write to. Not easy, but helpful.
Yeah.
If you title or a concept. Sometimes, a few cases I've had the verse and I've struggled to get to the chorus, but then that's the kind of journey you want to go from. Well, what is the crux of this situation? How do I? And there's different frameworks for doing that. Sometimes with the chorus, it's I've heard the expression of what advice would you give yourself, and I find that really helpful.
That's good.
That is really good.
That's
yeah.
really good.
Or what advice would you give to a friend if you don't want to talk about your own stuff? And I think for choruses, that's quite a nice thing to think about. I'm not a very good player, either on piano or guitar, so all of my stuff is usually vocally led, which is quite freeing because I'm not restricted to an instrument and I can just sing what I want to sing. But then I think it's about finding that connection with the translate what you want to say into music. That's where the magic, I think, happens. And that's one of my favorite things is if I've got a melody in my head and I sing it to someone and then they create almost music that I was imagining without telling them, that they could just put that down there. That's an amazing feeling. Yeah.
Do you ever, because I know personally when you're looking for songs, sometimes you want to write a song but maybe you force an emotion or you force a song out of nothing. Maybe you've already written about it, but you just feel like you should write a song. Do you ever feel that pressure to write songs, or do they just kind of flow out of you and you need to write them?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I think I used to kind of sit there and you listen to musicians like Ed Sheeran who talk about writing 200 to 300 songs to get your kind of practice going and your tap kind of turned. Also, I've got a bit of a cough. Oops.
That's okay.
No problem.
But non-COVID, I promise you. I promise you it's not COVID. And you hear other people talk about the 10,000 hours kind of rule. I find that really interesting. So I used to kind of sit there and kind of make myself write. But then if you're not enjoying the process of it, I kind of think that defeats the point. For me, it's about making sure that I'm enjoying the creative process as much as possible. So I do that in loads of different ways. Sometimes you just got to remind yourself that it's just a song. You're just writing a song. It's not open heart surgery. You're not kind of, flying a plane 10,000 miles in the sky with a group of people in it. You're just having fun and writing a song and literally have fun with it. And I think the other thing is I'm such a kind of structure writer. I love, songs which have a verse, a pre and a chorus, and they kind of take you on that journey melodically as well. I think sometimes it's fun to break the rules. You've got to know the rules first before you can break them. But there are so many ways to write a song. They don't all have to sound the same. And just to feel a bit more kind of free with it, really. Yeah. And I think in terms of kind of sitting there, kind of pressuring myself to write a song, I've not done that. During lockdown, I kind of felt quite a bit of pressure to kind of use this time so productively and kind of be right, I'm gonna learn Mandarin and write a book and master like jazz piano. And I'm like, no, what you're actually gonna do is probably spend half the time sitting in your bed watching the OC, which is actually what I have.
Which is what we
I
did.
have into. You guys what?
Watch the OC as well. Yeah, we love it. The OC is a great time killer.
It's such a good time killer. I'm so interested in like in the lives of these rich students. It's amazing.
They have a tough time.
They have it's so hard being so pretty and rich and living in California. Oh my god. I only went surfing twice today, but my soul is still so sad. Oh my god.
What do you think of George's curls?
Top lid.
What is the top lid? Yeah. It's a bit wide for me at the sides sometimes, but.
Oh my god! Don't talk to me about mushrooming on the sides. I'm trying to rock the curtains look.
Dude, the curtains look great.
Yeah, I love
I think it's fun when you have the little curl. Like,
Yeah.
Oh mate.
one. Like, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
very nice.
Mushrooming.
Is that what?
Is that what it's called? Mushrooming? Is that a term? Because if it is, then that's exactly what I've been trying to articulate.
I think I had a slightly dodgy hairdresser that used it once on me. Was like, "Oh, you want to take the mushroom out your hair?" I don't know what. And I've just basically adopted it ever since. I don't think it's right.
I love it.
I'm gonna say mushroomy. Sounds quite naughty.
You've just got to get past that in-between stage.
It's the awkward stage.
And then you'll be on to a winner.
Have you got something in your mind, like a hair that you're trying to replicate, like of someone in particular, or you just see what happens?
I just don't want it to turn into a kind of like Monica from Friends type of bob. I mean, I'd like it long on top and short at back and side, so this bit needs a bit of a trim. But I'm not in a rush. There's always baseball caps in the meantime. Lindsey, I love that colour. Is it a jumper or is it a blouse?
A cardigan.
Cardi, such a coral.
Yeah, it's a good pink, isn't it?
I know, I bloody love a good coral.
Thanks.
Very beachy.
We actually match because like it looks like similar to the coral on your shirt.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my God.
There's something going on here as well.
That's gorgeous. George
Nice.
always has a good shirt. I like that.
Oh man, you
Yeah,
got
this is a
to.
nice
You got to have something going on.
It's very British summertime. I love it.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost like when from Mary Poppins has his like glow up under the sea, and he like has his like little kind of underwater session. This is actually inspired by one of my favorite Instagram like influencers. He's like a comedian, and he's so funny. He's called JT Firstman. Have you guys seen him?
No.
Oh my god! He does these impressions of like things that you never thought people would do impressions of, and they're so on point and they're so funny and very topical and very related. And it's like it's gone viral for him. People like Ariana Grande and like J-Lo are like sharing his impressions, and it's so funny. So check it
Sounds
out.
like strong content. Definitely be checking
Strong
that
content.
out.
Very strong content. Yeah.
So song number 2.
Yeah, let's do song number 2 while the Wi-Fi is good. It's looking steady, so I think we're ready for song number 2.
Okay, so song number 2 is a bit of a staple. George probably very familiar with it. So it's a little old ditty of mine that I've been doing the rounds for a while, called Black and Blue. So yeah, here it is. How did I fall into the deep? And why do you treat me so carelessly? Oh, 'cause after what we've been through, left me so black and blue. I knew I would end up bruised. Took me so long to mend. Now I am back again. I knew I would always lose. Black and blue. I've been broken down Black and blue, for every little thing I do. It's too late, my heart won't stay the same. Black and blue, I've been broken down by you.
It's a smash.
That is available on SoundCloud and Spotify if anyone wants to stream it.
We'll put it below. I absolutely love that record. It's awesome.
I just think
thanks.
it's that line, that black and blue, it's just such a good
image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really like it.
Mm. So what is it about that song that you like most about it?
You know, I love those songs that can be quite uplifting or like dancing, but actually have a lot more depth and storytelling kind of going on behind the lyrics. And it's quite like, you know, it's quite a kind of sad song. It's kind of like saying that, like, you've had this relationship and you feel pretty battered after it, but you're still going to keep on living life and dancing. It's not going to stop you, you know, from having a good time. And also that even though you're necessarily, you know, going through something heavy, doesn't mean it has to be dark and doesn't mean it has to be, you know, debilitating, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of my way of like dancing through the kind of melancholy and sadness that people experience in life. Mm-hmm. And that's been really important to me. And I've always loved artists who do that in songs. And I think it's really unusual because it's like, it's not exactly like a, you know, let's go out and party and be happy kind of song. I've always been really into lyrics and people who are great storytellers. And I've always really identified with singers who sing from, you know, heartache and suffering and pain. And but I wanted to do something different. And I think all the ingredients came together on that, which was like melody, production, and songwriting, and having a sound that I really loved. I think that was the first time I felt like this might be my sound as an artist. So yeah, I really like, it's my favorite.
So I know you've mentioned to me before that you actually wrote that song about, I don't know if I remember correctly, but you said you wrote about kind of the music industry and that leaving you battered.
Yeah, and basically, yeah.
So do you try and write songs like, because obviously we know that's about that, but you've left that open, like, so it could be about heartbreak. Did you kind of do that on purpose?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something really in kind of letting other people have their own interpretation, because then it becomes their song as well about a certain part of their lives, and you've not like forced someone to look at a song from a certain perspective. You kind of allowed them to take ownership of it, which is really important to me. And I think all our songs are about relationships to lots of things, relationships with ourselves. Like Be Myself, I love, by the way. Amazing. I've had it on repeat like all day. Such a good song.
Thanks, man.
I guess that's about your relationship with yourself. And like this song is about my relationship with music at that time, which was, and the industry was becoming quite toxic. It was like, you know, I think we've all been there, which is like you have to be a certain way, look a certain way, sound a certain way to get kind of any type of like either mainstream recognition or success. And it's kind of looking on the back and ultimately that hurting your soul and hurting your craft. Yeah, a lot of healing I think has happened off the back of that track. And it's one of my favorites, yeah.
Is there a like you're talking about the music industry and, you know, compromising or people telling you to sound a certain way. Is there a piece of advice or like, you know, someone saying you should sound like that you haven't listened to or ignored it that sticks out in your mind? Like, oh, he told me I should do that and I really didn't want to do that.
Oh my God, there's like so many. I think the funniest thing was like meeting an A&R when I was like 18, playing him my music, and he was like, well, you're brown, so you should just join a Bollywood group. And I was like, honestly, probably the laziest A&R decision in history, but hilarious, like absolutely hilarious to go listen to. But the funny thing is, like, I don't even like, I'm sure Bollywood music is great, but I know nothing about Bollywood music and like, you know, Bhangra. It's so There's like countless stories of like that kind of stuff. Go ahead, but I think when you're younger, it's like, and you can take that stuff to heart. But I think the more you know who you are as an artist, that's all that matters. And I think no one can take away your artistry. They need your artistry. Like, they need artists who are real and singing from the soul. They don't need manufactured kind of artists. And if you want that, there's other avenues and certain ITV primetime shows you can go on to do that, which I should not mention. Saying no names. X Factor.
Do you ever think about wanting to do that, the X Factor? Because I know you've been approached before.
Who's to say that I've not tried it in the past but never spoken about it?
Now's your time.
I was approached a couple of times to do it. I'm not saying it's not for everyone, and it's great entertainment and amazing platform. And like Leona Lewis, who I actually love and I think is an amazing artist, came off the back of that show. She's got, I think, one of the best voices of like a UK singer-songwriter. I just haven't seen much longevity in the careers, I guess, from kind of artists that come off the back of that. And I think it's a hard path, kind of writing and producing your own music and putting it out there. But I think that's the process that you go through as a singer-songwriter, and it makes you better,
Mm-hmm. And
so
it's just regurgitating something that was successful and then like churning that out constantly. It just, I guess people just get sick of it and it becomes lazy. And
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you got a template for like a product, and then you kind of want to cut and copy and carbon paste like that whole thing like as many times as possible to milk the cash cow. But there's only so much kind of fuel in the tank, and I think it's really important, like, for artists to keep their like cup full and their tank full of inspiration and ideas, and that doesn't always happen if you're on a conveyor belt, kind of just being forced to do all this stuff that your heart's not into. So yeah, it's take time out and to get inspiration. And like for me, that's like, I guess that's through listening to loads of different stuff. Like I sit on, like I'll actually go on Spotify and I'll like listen to things that I would never normally listen to see what's out there and what people are doing. And that always keeps me inspired, because there's so many great artists out there making music in loads of different genres that I don't even know.
That brings us on really nicely to what we can finish with, which is, who should we be listening to, in your opinion, at the moment?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Actually, there's this guy I spoke to George about. I think George has heard him a few times, that I really love. Joseph Salvat, and I've mentioned him a few times. I really think he's an interesting guy. So I see a lot of parallels, basically, because like I did a law degree, he did a law degree. We're basically twins. He's got a really interesting voice. He's a storyteller. Like he comes at it telling stories, but it's with like a pop sensibility and a modern production, and it's like unafraid to use sounds that are in the contemporary canon, like sounds that Justin Bieber would use, or like a Kalani, or like like a sound that like Lana Del Rey might use, but with song, actually written narrative based story songs. And he's got a really lovely voice, and he's just released a new album for the first time in like 4 years, perfectly in time for lockdown, which is great, which I love. And there's a song on there called Melt, which is fantastic, and there's another song on there called Human. And but my favorite song on that record is called Paper Moons, and it's about his best friend who kept calling him in the middle of the night because his friend was like basically like having loads of casual like affairs and taking loads of drugs and kind of being a bit of a kind of having a bit of a moment in life, like the things that he wished he could say. And it's beautiful, and it's like will make you like have a little cry. So if you want like a little emotion, listen to Paper Moons. It's so good. Yeah, really good.
I can't wait to hear it. I didn't know that he had a new album out. I like the first album.
Yeah.
Is this album number 2?
I really like the first one. It's album number 2, yeah. Yeah. I think he's someone who's like, what I really love about him as well is that it's always quality over quantity. So it's been 4 years, but he's still got like such a loyal fan base who will be there listening and waiting for that record. And it's not about getting things out fast. He'd rather take his time. And it was so worth the wait with that record. So yeah, check it out. Joseph Salvat.
Absolute Paper Moons, Salvat. Can't wait.
It's a winning combo, mate.
It sounds like
it's a huge winning combo.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for doing this weird lockdown interview.
I mean, this has just been like normal, really. We're just having a nice chat.
That's what it is.
To be being filmed.
Yeah.
Going to be streamed on the internet, free for the world to watch.
The world is waiting.
You know what's so nice? It's just like me and George just talk about music constantly. So this is basically just an extension of our normal conversation, but just online.
It's true, yeah. It was hard to ask questions that I hadn't asked before, like I said, because I know how your mind works already.
Yeah,
I know. That's still one thing that has like completely eluded me. Like no one knows where ideas come from, and I just want to end on like the note of like, there's been a lot of like, you know, negativity in the world at the moment, and a lot of panic, and a lot of, you know, it's a confusing time for a lot of people. I think one thing that kind of binds us in our humanity is creativity, and it's so important that those ideas are shared with the world, because that's our way to connect, and it's also like it goes above and like beyond any like barriers and like constructs that we put on. Like, and music is like, I've always thought it's like the most potent like kind of form of like transferring ideas and energy, and it really makes the world go round. And it's just like at this time, if you can do anything, it's like give yourself like the permission and time and space to be creative, because it's so necessary. And save the world, brother.
Yeah.
Amen.
I totally agree. That's really nice.
Well, thanks for rounding it off for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, mate. And speak soon.
Oh,
or let me know about that Salvat track. Yeah, no problem.
I know. And I can't wait to like actually see you guys in real life at some point, and like actually give you guys a hug. Who knows what that's going to be, but I know it will happen. So yeah.
We'll see you down in Margate, mate.
Yes. Trust me, I can't wait to get on that train. Yeah.
Sweet, man.
Oh.
Lots
you guys
of love.
take care.
Bye.
Lots of love.
Lots of love. See you guys later.
And that was Priz.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That was Priz. And such a nice way to finish off the episode with like that bit. His wisdom, his words of wisdom. I feel
Priz
like
has got so many words of wisdom.
And I always feel like every time I talk to him, I come away feeling like really warm and uplifted. Uplifted. It's nice. What did we think of his song?
His songs, Taxi Cab.
You were just singing Taxi Cab.
It's a banger.
I think it's a banger. I think, honestly, we're gonna have like a playlist for this. Everyone's gonna be requesting these first or worst.
Yeah, because they might grate on the person who's writing them, but really they're just like a fun song and often really, really catchy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember the first one I wrote was it wasn't the first one, but it would definitely be the worst one if I was doing this. It was like my interpretation of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Oh my god, please, you need to do it.
Which I definitely will at some point. But it cringes me so much. But all my friends are like, oh, you know, we really like that song. It's a really cool song. But I don't know why, because it's so bad.
Yeah, and I think like, especially because he was saying that he wrote that when he was 15, it's just like, you're so full of emotion and like, you think...
It's natural.
There's no like, embarrassment to your creativity at that point, if you know what I mean.
You're not trying to be cool as much.
You're not trying to put anything out, you're just kind of doing stuff because you're like...
You're just having a good time and you just thought of a great idea called Taxi Cab and you just can't wait to make it, and there's something great about that.
And you just do it. Yeah, it's nice.
We love Priz. We hope you do too.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe.
And we'll see you again next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.
See you later.